Warning, this video is not targeted to kids and may be inappropriate to younger audiences. Your discretion is advised. Hello, dudes and dudettes. It's your favorite Reject Gamer Mix 17 here, and I'm back once again for another Subnautica Let's Explore video. Now, we're continuing onward with the final bit. I know I said that last time, but finally with the final bit for the data entries. Starting off with Leviathans. Okay. Leviathans. Well, starting off with the Ghost Ray. This creature is approaching the size limit for sustainable organic life forms and has been designated Leviathan class. Adults of the species have been encountered exclusively around the edges of the volcanic crater, which supports life on this part of the planet, and react with extreme aggression on approach. Number 1. Hammerhead. Cartilaginous extensions of the creature's skull form a hammerhead which protects the Ghost Leviathan as it performs devastating ramming attacks. Number 2. Jaws. While fully capable of tearing through flesh of any creature in range, all evidence indicates that mature Ghost Leviathans feed on microscopic life forms in the waters around the edges of the inhabited zone. Their vicious attacks on interlopers to their domain are not predatory in nature, but territorial. That explains a lot. A creature so vast requires a huge expanse of water to satisfy a daily calorie requirements. Number 3. Torso. Its muscled interior body is surrounded by a translucent outer membrane, suggesting adaptation for deep, low-light environments. When threatened, it can tense its entire body before lashing out with incredible speed. Number 4. Life cycle. Probable, migratory behavior. This specimen is likely born far from the area where it was encountered. Assessment: extreme threat, avoid the crater edge. Ghost Leviathan juvenile. This large predator has adapted to live in the deep waters and dark cave systems, attacking anything and everything in its quest to grow larger. Oh boy. Torso. I think I should probably still read it. Number 1. Torso. Soft outer membrane and elongated body enable superior navigation in tight cave environments. Displays some similarities to other eel-like predators in the area. However, the Ghost Leviathan has covered over the electric prongs of its inner torso with a taut and translucent membrane which delivers superior maneuverability. Number 2. Diet. In its juvenile state, this Leviathan feeds on larger herbivores and unfortunate members of its own species. They display a remarkable rate of growth which shows no signs of stopping, suggesting that they must abandon their hatching grounds before they can grow too large and make for open waters. Assessment: avoid. Reaper Leviathan. Hello, my old friend. Leviathan class species are vast organisms on the top of their respective food chains. This species streamlined hunter with highly developed senses. Number 1. Powerful mandibles. This Leviathan is capable of locking prey in place with 4 powerful mandibles and drawing it within reach of its jaws. Simulated pressure exceeds Seamoth crush resistance. Number 2. Echolocation. The deep roar emitted by the Reaper at regular intervals is effectively sonar. If you can hear it, the Reaper can see you. Number 3, profile. Scanned specimen measured 55 meters long. Observed circling its prey and attacking from behind. This creature is almost all muscle. Very little brain, no sense of morality, just muscle, synapse, and teeth. Motivational notes. Congratulations on getting close enough to scan it and living to see the results. Okay. I actually like that motivational note. I'm glad about that. Assessment. Extreme threat. Avoid in all circumstances. Reefback Leviathan. The only Leviathan I absolutely love seeing. This vast life form is in excess of 30 meters long and has been designated Leviathan class. Fortunately, it feeds exclusively on plankton like life forms in water. Basically, the blue whales of Subnautica. Or specifically, the craters, volcanic crater, whatever you'll call it. Moving along. Oh, this thing's long. Okay. Sintonus shell. Sintonus, I don't know. Most of the life form's topside and some of its underside is protected by a thick layered exoskeleton. This suggests an evolutionary path quite different from other organisms on 4546b, which is most of which are vertebrate in nature. The reefback species is likely been able to grow far larger than other herbivores because anything large enough to break through its shell has long since gone extinct. Number 2, enzyme pods. Similar to the appearance of the algae glands on the gasteropods, these organs on the reefback's underside serve some unknown purpose in its digestive system and are capable of expelling small quantities of a stomach enzyme into the surrounding waters. I've never seen this before. Local microsm. An array of different barnacle and plant species grow on the reefback's shell, thrusting their roots into ancient scars in the sea and taking advantage of the mobility to avoid predation. Nonetheless, reefbacks will often be pursued by faster, hungrier herbivores, and thus this leviathan species is mobile microsm worthy of years of study in itself. Number 4, life cycle. Reefbacks' lifespans likely extend through many centuries should they survive their initial growth cycle. For the first few decades, their smaller size would make them vulnerable to carnivorous leviathans, sociable, seen traveling in small pods, and communicating by echoing call. Behavior is consistent in low-level sentience. Yeah, I absolutely love them. They're amazing. Assessment: harbors plants, small fish, and metal-rich barnacles. Sea Dragon Leviathan. Also crazy long text. Yay. I am not looking forward to this then. A colossal leviathan with reptilian features, seen stalking the very heart of the volcanic crater, using underpins life in this area. The scanned specimen measured 112 meters in length. Heat-proof tissue. Tissue analysis reveals the specimen consists of 1/3 inanimate materials focused around the chest area. Consumption and retention of mineral substances may explain the life form's ability to withstand extreme temperature. It even appears to be able to consume molten materials and expel them into its adversaries. Number 2, forearms. Evolutionary distinct forearms are used to both propulsion and defensive purposes. Finding suggests evolutionary divergence from other species on the planet tens of millions of years ago. The sea dragon is likely one of the oldest specimens on the planet. Number 3, behavior. Alright, so continue onward. I was reading... I don't even remember what I was reading. So I'm pretty sure I finished reading number 1. Forearms, evolutionary thing, and find suggestions, yada yada. Oh, okay, yeah, somewhere around here then. Finding suggestion, evolutionary divergence from other species on the planet tens of millions of years ago. The sea dragon is likely one of the oldest species on the planet. Number 3, behavior. As the largest carnivorous species encountered on 4546b, almost everything is potentially prey. With a few substantial targets in the volcanic cave systems, the sea dragon likely ventures out into cooler waters to hunt other smaller leviathans, cornering them and forcing them deeper where they ultimately boil alive. That is one way to go. Sea dragon size and restrictions of the cave systems they inhabit suggest their population numbers are extremely low, perhaps in the single digits. When there is not unusual While that is not unusual for larger predators to sustain lower populations, it is possible for the sea dragon's food sources have diminished over time. This species may have been nearing extinction. Assessment: extreme heat, avoid in all circumstances. Oh boy, something a little shorter, and then boom. Sea Emperor Juvenile. Which, now that I think about it, why do I not have a Sea Emperor Leviathan? Okay. A juvenile emperor specimen. It is producing a highly potent form of enzyme 42, which should be capable of fully curing individuals of alien bacterium. These species hatches relatively fully formed and independent, perhaps reflecting the fact that they must fend for themselves when they are first born from their parents, away from their parents. This specimen is healthy and exhibiting signs of positive attitude in life. That makes me question, how in the world do you know such a thing? That's such a funny little thing to say, but whatever. Moving on, we of course have, I think this is one of the more smaller leviathans, the Sea Treader Leviathan. A vast bipedal leviathan which roams the reefs in herds, grazing the sea floor. Number 1, antenna. Oh boy. Antennae, whatever. On the creature's head can detect a range of scents, helping the sea treaders find fresh grazing pastures, avoid the path of large predators, and sense chemical signals of other of its kind. Sorry. I'm trying to stop yawning. Carapace. Thick armor protects the creature from attack by all but the largest carnivores. 2 legs extend from the rear. Okay. Elongated snout. Used to siphon up plant material from the seafloor and maintain balance. Behavior. Large herds would decimate the flora in a single area, thus encouraging sea treaders' migratory behavior. Families keep their young but towards the center of the herd, and parents will lash out at over-curious interlopers in search of easy meal. Assessment: sea treaders may unearth materials deposits as they come the sand. Give me a second while I, of course, sadly have to get food for my system, cause that's what I just want to do every single time I get the chance. Moving along. Finally, we are at the final bits. Oh wait, no, scratch that. We are at something. We are on stuff. Amyoboid. I have no clue what the heck that you pronounce that. A sample non-sentient organism found attached onto land with high levels of fossilized organic matter. It feeds on this matter until it reaches maturity, at which point it divides and creates two new genetically identical offspring, and the cycle continues. Ancient floater. God dang it. You have got to be kidding me. I'm thinking about taking a break, like a 2-hour break now. Because I've been reading like this in the previous videos stuff. Anywho, ancient floater. Biodata suggests these vast floaters have matured in an indigenous symbiosis with the land they have attached to. The attached landmass has risen in the water, increasing sunlight and encourage plant growth. As older plants decay and organic residues and nutrients seep into the rock and consumed by the floater, these circumstances must have held for thousands of years for the floater to reach this size. Life cycle. Immature floaters are born near the surface from where they sink to the seabed, attaching to any suitable surface they find on the way. Those individuals fortunate enough to attach to a digestible nutrient source will grow to a size, thus increasing their buoyancy and drawing whatever they're attached to closer to the surface. In extreme circumstances, the number of floaters may attach to a Leviathan-class life form, enforcing it to surface and efficiency affixating it. The body will consume over a number of months until eventually dissolving, leaving the floaters free to attach to a new host. That's what I tried to do once, but it didn't work, sadly. Those creatures which successfully rise a landmass to the surface are rewarded with a burgeoning and permanent food supply, allowing them to finally reproduce and begin the cycle again. Assessment incredible. Okay, and yeah, I'm gonna take a small break. Be right back. Alright, so much for that small little break. It is actually now the next day. So moving along, we now have the bleeder, a simple parasitic organism, a little more complex than common space tick, but just as dirty. Number 1, docile sac, I guess, whatever. Used for collection and digestion of blood drawn from host creatures. 2. Jaw. Rows of teeth and mandibles attached to the skin of its victims. 3. Behavior. The bleeder's low speed and poor defense suggests that they have evolved primarily as carrion feeders, but they have also prone to target large living creatures, which are less likely to notice take action against the parasite. Assessment: inconvenience and unhygienic, avoid or incapacitate. Blood crawler. I remember these suckers. An agile territorial scavenger that moves in packs across the seabed, closely related to amphibious cave crawler, but adapt to deep sea conditions. Legs. Number 1, legs. The largest difference between crawlers of 4546B are the forelegs, which extend more than a meter from the blood crawler's torso. And yes, that is true. I've seen the height. Allowing it to move at at surprising speed across the seabed and even scale to walls. 2. Torso. The blood crawler can lower its entire body to bring its mandibles within grasping distance of the carrion on which it feeds, while retaining the maneuverability it requires to avoid its predators. Assessment: necessary waste recycler. Wait, what? Avoid or ink. Oh, okay. I was a little lost for a second there. Alright, cave crawlers. Agile territorial carrion feeder, well adapted to both land and sea. Number 1, gas exchange mandible. Oh, membrane, there we go. Absorbs essential gases from the air or water for basic bodily function. Number 2, mandibles. This species seeks out corpse in packs before defending its claim while the corpse is devoured. Have we seen that many corpses? I mean, other than the things I've killed. Assessment: necessary waste recycler, avoid or incapacitate. Floater, the smaller ones, the ones I tried to use to kill the Leviathan one time. 2 species living in symbiosis, which attach to it and attempt to feed on any object they come into contact with. Number 1, dominant life form. The pink main body and inner suction jaw is the dominant creature. Once attached to an organism or other stable surface, it will attempt to leach nutrients in order to grow. 2. Microorganism membrane. The outer gel-like substance is a mesh of microorganisms capable of forming a sealed vacuum around the creature's jaws. Number 3, helium buffer. What? A thin layer of helium is stored within the outer membrane, providing buoyancy to the floater and anything it's attached to. Assessment: may aid in flotation of sunken objects. I'm going to have to test out these floaters more often. Larva. Or lava. There we go. I can never remember these things. A grub-like species which appears to lack sight and smell, but is able to sense and draw thermal and electrical energy from its immediate environment. Number 1, suction cup. Capable of attaching to smooth surfaces and generates high-pressure suction, will release if it comes under sufficient strain. Number 2, torso. Thick scales protect from extreme temperatures. The lava larva lacks the additional digestive system. Instead, it powers its internal processes directly from the energy it consumes. Number 3, behavior. Attached to the energy sources of all kinds, drains energy from the prey to survive. Assessment: avoid when piloting vehicles. Remove to conserve batteries, unless of course you have something that allows it to recharge. Rock grub, one of the smallest creatures in the entirety of the game. That's no joke either. A small luminescent scavenger, roughly thumb-sized, this creature may be a distant relative to the sand shark, sharing that species' unusual limbs, segmented exoskeleton, and burrowing behavior. Number 1, jaw. Its circular set of teeth is designed to tear up chunks of coral and seagrass caught on the rocks. Number 2, limbs. 5 legs, 2 arms, and a large flipper allow the rock grub to cling and walk across rocks' faces in search of food, and swiftly swim to safety when under attack. 3. Green luminescence. Glowing green in the dark would seem a poor survival skill strategy, but this adaptation may be a mating behavior or other specialized process engaged in by only a fraction of the total population at any one time, or perhaps being eaten is simply part of the rock grub's life cycle. Assessment: harmless. That is no joke. The shutterbug, which I had the hardest time trying to find because of the fact of how rare I was not able to find these things, or they're not the most common thing apparently for when I was trying to find these suckers. A common scavenger at the base of the food chain. That is sad. Small mouth parts, small enough to be a little threat to most organisms. This creature is clearly adapted to feed on waste products of the ecosystem around it. 2. 3 mandibles, using the something on themselves when drifting and to filter through diuretis on cave floors. 3 legs. High strength muscles can propel the life form great distances through the water, as well as ambulating them across the sea floor. Assessment: necessary waste recycler. Presence may indicate nearby cave systems. Well, and there we have it. Scavengers and parasites. We are almost done. We just finished subcategory fauna. Next up, subcategory flora, with multiple subcategories or subcategories of itself. I'm gonna check something real quick. Give me a second. Alright then, back to reading. Yay, just what I love. I mean, actually, reading's not that bad. Flora. Oh boy, so exploitable. Oh, I know what this. Okay. Why did I do that? Alright. Acid mushroom. A common spore-bearing fungi species. The flesh contains highly acidic compound which leaches into the water if the outer skin is penetrated. If it is not clear which predator species necessitated such extreme countermeasures, but the acid mushroom's numbers suggest it has successfully deterred most of them. Assessment: inedible, actually. I can eat it. It's just not going to taste so great. Acid has applications in battery fabrication, I mean. Blood roots. This root systems generally extend from one cave wall to another. Number 1, coiled root system, where the root system breaks through into the open water. Its tendrils coil around one another for enhanced structural integrity. Number 2, cave wall rooting. When the roots meets the cave wall, it penetrates into the rock and continues to grow, albeit at a slower rate. Both bloodroots and blood vines produce blood oil pustules, I can't pronounce it, confirming that they are in fact one of the same flora species. The majority of the root system thrives with the rock itself, occasionally breaks into open water and to reach untapped mineral resources, or generating vines which feed on water-based nutrients. Blood vine. This species of kelp grows in sparse copse deep on the ocean floor and provides shelter for an array of distinct fauna and megafauna. Survival at these depths is challenging, and the life form which makes their homes here have developed unusual coping mechanisms, including a bleaching of skin pigment dependency on naturally occurring metals and oils to adjust the temperature and pressure, and in some cases even electrical defense mechanisms. A vibrant red oils which seep in from the blood vine congelate into semi-hard I can't pronounce it, which frequently fall loose and form a vital food stuff. Wait, what? Vital food stuff in the local ecosystem and are otherwise reabsorbed into the ground over time. Bamboo tree. The bulb-based flora which roots to the ground and sprouts turquoise leaves. Analysts suggest the sap produced by this plant is poisonous to insects, can be harvested and consumed by humans for its high water content. Assessment: edible, high water content. Chinese potato plant. The Chinese potato plant is common throughout the China territories, where synthetic foods and are still stigmatized, and there remain large traces or tracts are arable land on which on which to grow fresh produce. Genetically designed prior to the expansion, this plant is highly adaptable to different environments and a staple of new colonists galaxy-wide. Assessment: edible. Creep vine. A kelp species concentrated in large forests in shallow and sandy waters. Loose roots anchor the plant to the seafloor, from where it grows steadily towards the surface in pursuit of sunlight. The stem is fibrous and rich in iron, making it both a viable base mineral for fabrication of textiles as well as basic foodstuff. Assessment: vital alien resource, edible, construction applications. Creepvine seeds. Oh, I can go down a tiny bit? Alright. Mature creepvine plants that have survived the predation of small herbivores produce these bioluminescent seed clusters, which may be knocked loose by currents or consumed and later deposited by predators. The embryo is surrounded by a thick oil and silicone layer, which would disperse into the ground as the outer skin deteriorated. This may provide the seedling with the nutrients it needs to survive the low light conditions of the seabed. Assessment: vital alien resource, construction applications. Deep shroom. A discolored relative of the acid mushroom, adapt to low light conditions, considerably more acidic than its shallow dwelling cousin. It may have applications in advanced fabrication. Assessment: can be processed into hydrochloric acid. Gel sac. This organic structures grow on cave walls. The purple sacs which arise from the surface contain low-density gel laced with spores. These burst from time to time, floating towards the surface and attaching onto the next rock face they encounter. While the gel sac is edible, its low density renders it an invaluable advanced construction material. Assessment: edible aerogel construction applications. Lantern tree. A conglomeration of individual vines which rely on one another for structural support. Grows exclusively on fertile land. Each vine produces orange, lantern-shaped fruits with minimal nutrition and hydration value. Assessment: edible in an emergency. which luckily I'm glad I got rid of it because that thing was useless. Marble melon. This plant collects water from the air rather than relying on its root system, and produces large freshly fruits, which are both edible and have particularly high water content. Assessment: edible, high water content. Sulfur plant. These plants appear to serve as nest for explosive organisms in which guard them. The outer pellets are damaged by the presence of the inhabiting creature, suggesting the complex co-development the plant has developed to feed the nutrients and minerals deposited within it by the fish. Sulfuric deposits from the inner leaves provide an insight into the mechanism which the creature explodes. Assessment: sulfur has applications to construct the repair tool. Next up, land. And oh boy, luckily there's only a little bit. Fern plant. This specimen was first identified in the artificial grow bed on the island. It is not listed in existing flora databases, so it is unclear whether or not it is native to this planet. Genetic code shares some features with other local plant life, but this may be the result of DNA transfusion rather than natural evolution. Grub basket. The orange-colored land plants, which usually contains a thick, protein-rich sludge at its base. This may suggest a carnivorous life cycle wherein grubs and insects are attached to the bright pellets, make their way to the center of the plant, but are unable to scale back up the slick inner leaves and are ultimately digested. Jaffa cup. The common land fungus found in clusters, grows quickly, size is limited only by available nutrients and space. Ming plant. A hardy specimen which grows on land. The vast vase-like trunk protects the root system from predation and self-repairs over time, explaining the characteristic cracks from the side. Pink cap. A land-based fungus specimens with harvestable spores, inedible. Speckled rattler. A brittle land plant containing large spores which generate a characteristic rattle when the plant is shaken. This may act to wander off predators or even encourage predation, as means of spreading the spores. Vauxhall shrub. A pink-leafed plant with an angular appearance which grows exclusively on land. Finally, sea. And oh boy, is there quite a bit. Anchor pods. These unusual flora specimens have been encountered exclusively in the deep reefs. They consist of large spherical gas-filled membrane anchored to the seafloor by its root system, and these depths are unlikely. This structure is designed to enhance access to sunlight, rather the pod's availability to propagate. I don't know. Once the pods attach sufficient height, they burst, releasing spores which catch the currents and dissipate around the local area. Blue palm. The blue palm is a common aquatic plant which thrives in shallow waters. With high exposure to sunlight, long frauds, intercept light before it can reach a smaller flora on the sea floor. Brine lily. These lily-like plants have evolved to take advantage of the relative density of the acidic brine pools encountered near the ocean floor to float safely to the surface. Tendril-like roots extend down into the brine, drawing essential salts and minerals from the water. Bulbbush, god dang it. This aquatic species has evolved to grow in deep sandy environments and to conserve its hydration levels against relatively extreme external temperatures. The root system can fragment the shale rock it grows on to form a deep anchor point, allowing the predators to graze but not easily uproot the entire plant. This grazing will tend to dislodge parts of the plant, and each of the section is capable of growing into a fully formed adult plant, expanding the concentrations of the bulb bushes in some parts of the world. Assessment: edible in small quantities, high water content. Wait, you're telling me I could eat this thing? That's it. I'm eating this thing. I'm going to test out what happens. Cave bush. A purple luminescent species which grows well on hardy terrain away from sunlight. Crab crawl kelp. A blue-tipped kelp species which tends to grow in or near to acidic brine pools of the ocean floor. These brine pools are hazardous to most life forms. However, the crab crawl is adapted to developing a thick, inflexible root system which can withstand the environment and which raises the sensitive blue feeding nodules above the level of the brine. Whew, okay. Drooping stinger. 1. Photosynthetic cells detected. Implies carnivorous adaptation into low light environments. 2. Fossils allow the tentacles are capable of detecting contact with foreign bodies, triggering the electromagnetic charge in the 600-watt range. Prey is likely paralyzed and consumed over many weeks. Prey, small fish. Assessment: avoid. And I gotta eat something because I'm slowly dying. Screw you too, buddy. Alright, and with that done and out of the way, continue on reading. Eye stalk. A cave-dwelling tuber dotted with luminescent photosynthetic eyes. These eyes may in some way direct the twisted growth of the stems themselves, possibly in reaction to other light sources, approximately in cave walls or other environmental conditions. Lead papyrus. I don't know. The function of the distinctive curled leaves on this aquatic plant is not immediately clear. It is possible the leaves unfurl in low light conditions, or they are designed to channel the water currents through the main body of the plant, thus enhancing nutrient take-up. Gabe's fish. This plant grows almost exclusively in deeper waters, where its handle-like leaves have evolved to filter sediment from the environment. It is likely dependent on the excruciations of fauna populating in the waters above and around it. Ghostweed grows exclusively in deep waters where its pale pigmentation is visible on the fewest wavelengths. Giant bulbbush. This vast plant is centuries old, making it dominates the surrounding area. A complex root system below the surface connects it with other bulb bushes in the area. Nutrition flow within the network suggests the giant bulb plant has adapted to feed the weaker bushes and keep the forest healthy. Giant cove tree. The a vast tree encountered in a wait, what? A vast tree encountered in a deep cove, and the only one of its kind encountered on the planet. The tree is surrounded by rays grazing on its pink outer leaves. Number 1, bark. A hardy, fast-growing bark covers the outside of the tree. Minzil organisms inhabit the notches of the surface. Number 2, ghost leviathan eggs. The branches are wrapped around a number of maturing eggs belonging to the specimens designated ghost leviathan. This tree appears to be an ancient nesting ground. The eggs were laid here in the tree was young, and now the branches protect and grow with them as they await the right conditions to hatch. Jelly shroom. A life form unique to microism located in a cave system deep within the grassy plateaus, where a highly concentration of carnivorous life forms wards off smaller preys. Consists of a tough trunk-like base from which grows a fragile purple membrane. Membrane structure suggests vulnerability to predation, but evidence thereof is lacking. Unknown defensive mechanisms, possible symbiotic relationship, predators, none identified. Membrane tree. This entity defies neat categorization. It consists of more than one coral species working in tandem to create an insulated microism enclosed within a translucent membrane, found exclusively growing on basalt rock in the Grand Reef. The homostatic conditions within are considerably warmer and more dense than microbial life form than the outside environment. And with the bright purple fauna inside will likely die off quickly if exposed. Whew, holy crap. I am almost done. Pygmy fan? I don't know. A common wildly luminescent plant discovered periodically in shallower waters. Red wart, I think. A common plant adapted to many different environments. The red wart is a staple part of the diet on many smaller herbivores. Regress shell. This specimen is composed of complex series of regressing rings and connected by tendrils. Rogue cradle. A complex cave-dwelling flora specimen. The bright yellow core of this plant is protected by a rigid cage, presumably to ward off medium-sized herbivores. Sea crown. This plant consists primarily of large bladder-like sac containing a huge variety of bacterial species, which may enable it to break down complex structures it draws from the root system. Shares large sections of genetic code with the membrane tree. Environment scans indicate this plant is rare to the point of extinction. Spiked horn grass. Where it shares a close genetic similarity with bloodgrass, this species has evolved to house its root system in rigid horn-shaped enclosures. Spotted dock leaf. A simple aquatic plant. Chemicals within the leaves act as a neutralize poisons and acids found in other local specimens, thereby actively encouraging predation by herbivores, albeit in small quantities. This ensures the plant both spreads its seeds but retains enough surface area on its leaves to survive itself. Tiger plant. Oh boy. This plant has adapted to the sense of I can't pronounce it, in the water at up to 15 meters. It is capable of both prehensile movements of its tubes, as well as propelling its thorns at speeds up to 10 meters per second. Although capable of incapacitating small herbivores, this plant lacks carnivorous digestive organs. Would-be predators caught in its defense perimeter serve as a warning to other herbivores not to approach. And they are as composed to serve as fertilizer for the tiger plants. Assessment: avoid or incapacitate. Tree leech. Parasitic fungus-like growth found attached to other life forms. An enzyme is released by the organism which dissolves a hole in the skin of the host, from which it leaches nutrients directly. Outer tooth-lined jaw serves no identified purpose, may be used during a different stage of the organism's life cycle. Assessment: exploited fungal enzymes. Veined nettle. A common shallow water plant which frequently shows signs of predation around the edges of the leaves. Thick violet vines, one of those two, carry nutrients to the extremities of the fan, and brightly colored seeds grow around the base of the stem. Violet beru, a common luminescent plant which grows in patches of the seabed. And writhing weed, one of those two. Well adapted to both shallow waters and cave systems, this plant lives in symbiosis of a coral species which forms around the base of the stems. Finally, that is it for that category. Now, time capsules are actually very weird, because time capsules are actually time capsules made by other players that spawn at random and by chance. So I was lucky enough to find 4 time capsules, all of which I have not exactly the best of ideas to think of how and where they were. Or how I found them, or whatever. I just came across them naturally within the world of Subnautica, so I highly suggest that if you're trying to look for time capsules, just look. You'll eventually find one every now and then. So yeah. I will, show off these things right now. We're not gonna read them. Everyone else can read them on their own time if they want to, by just pausing the video. This is the next one. And the next one, and the next one, and that is it. That is the entirety of my database that I currently have, and this thing will not be updating anytime soon, other than of course the small minor bits of data that I will find hopefully sometime in the future. Other than that though, that is all the data that that is also found within the world of Subnautica. And without further ado, yes, I end up doing this video on the next day, which is Tuesday. But I just want to finish up all the data entries so that we could actually get into the nitty-gritty and the possibility of high death. So, look forward to that next week on Let's Explore. Thank you everyone for joining me in this grand adventure of Subnautica Let's Explore, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.